Hey, hello everybody, I'm back and going to continue on with some of my critical thinking. What would you do in this situation? And I try to make the critical thinking not really geared towards men or women. So most people can't say, oh, men always do that, women always do that. It's kind of, I try to keep it equal. So it doesn't matter if you're male or female. And as I said before, I like to know how a person thinks in different situations. Anyone can tell you, if you're sitting there talking, they can tell you what the so-called right thing to say. If you say, hey, if you found a bag filled with money in the park, what would you do? And most people would say, I'd give it to the police. But is that really what you would do? I want to know, what would you really do in this situation? And I have one here. The title of this one is there ever justification for hiding money from your spouse? Now, you don't have to be married to understand what's going on here. Of course, if you are married, you probably do not want to answer this question in front of your spouse. But if you're single, it would be interesting to know or even the difference between how, say, a single person would think and a married person would think. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and you tell me what you would do, all right, in the comments below. All right, here we go. You've been married for 5 years, so not very long, okay? And you live in a city with a high cost of living, like, let's say, Tokyo, New York, California, Chicago. You make nearly all of the income, and because of that, it's very stressful for you. It's very stressful to go to work knowing that only you, are taking care of you and your spouse. So without you, your spouse would have nowhere to live, no food, nothing. You've begged your spouse many times, please get a job, please get a job. But you do talk to your spouse by telling them, my job is very stressful, I need help, we need help. But you think your spouse is not, they claim they're looking for a job, but they're not really looking for a job. It's like half-hearted efforts. They go out, and you come to the conclusion that they're probably sabotaging the interviews or their chances of getting that job. I mean, when they're maybe during the interview process, or maybe how their resume looks. It always depends what you say and how you say it, which can be good or bad. But you believe that your spouse is kind of sabotaging their chances of getting a job. So after 3 years of this, constantly begging your spouse to get a job, you are just so sure that your marriage won't last. You believe you will not be able to stay married. So you decide to hide $250,000, and you give it to your mom for safekeeping. Who better to give the money to but your mother? She says, okay, she's holding on to that $250,000 for you. Now, 2 years later, you decide, okay, I think you believe you had enough, so you want a divorce. Okay? So you're in the middle of the divorce, and you have a joint account with $750,000 in the account. And as any American would know, you will have to split that 50-50. So even though your wife or your spouse, I should say, did absolutely nothing to help you save that money, you have to split 50-50. Now, but one of your friends tells you, I think you should put that $250,000 back in the pot so it can be split up during the divorce. Now, there's an argument for putting the money in, and there's an argument for not putting the money in. An argument for putting that $250,000 into the pot. When you decided to get married, you knew the law requires that in divorce, your spouse gets half the money, no matter who earned it. You should know the law, American law. Even if before marrying, you didn't know your spouse would earn no income. So maybe before you got married, you talked about this, but your spouse still has not earned any income. If that indeed was a deal breaker for you, you should have initiated divorce when you realized that, which would have allowed both of you to move quickly on to a mutually agreeable relationship. So if you know the law, that regardless of who makes the money, you will have to split it 50-50. You probably should have started divorce proceedings much earlier than 5 years. Now, the argument for not putting the $250,000 into the pot is, from a universal justice perspective, you deserve that money. It's yours. You earned it, and your spouse, who claimed in marrying you to love you forever, despite your begging, please get a job, the stress is killing me, refuses to work. And unless your income is unusually high, it's not easy after taxes to live in a major city or suburb on just one income. From a different perspective, it is unjust for that non-earner to get $120,500 on top of having been supported for 5 years, plus the $370,500 your spouse will get from the joint account's assets. So, what would you do? Would you put that money back in the pot to be split evenly between you and your spouse? Or would you keep that money at your mom's house and that's yours for all the stress that you've endured for the past 5 years of being married to this person? What would you do? It's probably not a very easy question, or maybe to some of you it is an easy question. So, if you knew your spouse didn't want to work, and if someone loves you or before you're getting married, they'll probably give you all the answers that you want. Yes, I'll find a job. Yes, I have qualifications. But once you get married, it's probably a difficult decision to get divorced. So all of those promises and questions that they've answered prior to the marriage may or may not have been true, and now you're finding that out the hard way. So, what would you do? And I have an idea. Why don't you share your comments in the comments below, and maybe somebody will comment on your comment. Okay, so I would be very interested, because I read all the comments, I would be very interested to know how you think. Would you split that money 50-50, or would you keep it hidden at your mom's house, and that's your little stress relief from your work? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and post this one now, and another one for my critical thinking. Okay?